we're going to reset later, but not right now.
Two more times.
My machine is a government machine. Yeah, and I didn't.
Good morning. Thank you, everybody. My company name is Synoptic Data. I just wanted to touch base. We wanted to show, we saw some excellent presentations earlier in the morning where people are collecting using really great economical and reliable solutions to do soil moisture networks. And I wanted to tell you what Synoptic's role is and how we are partnering with the National Mesonet Program. We are one of the primary lead subcontractors for the NMP, working with about 38 states and 50 partners, showing data, collecting the data, aggregating, and pretty much sending it to the National Mesonet Program to MOISST. Oops. Yeah, so Synoptic Data, first of all, we are a public benefit corporation, and we just received our B Corp certification. Primarily for doing that was we're registered in Delaware as a PBC, and the goal for being a public benefit corporation is we're not just here to maximize shareholders' value. So we really work for all stakeholders. We work with customers, communities, universities, and really a gold standard of public-private partnership. Synoptic is committed to providing expanded access to environmental data for public safety, improve the productivity of government agencies, and also commercial entities. And we assist in research. We invest a lot in R&D. We also do a lot of all the researchers and university graduates, all the data access is for free. So we have a real nice open data policy for people. We've been doing this for about 20 years. We were actually born out of University of Utah, the MOISST program, and then University of Utah licenses to be a standalone independent company as we started doing more and more work with the National Mesonet Program. We have about 20 plus years in aggregating data, doing QA, QC. And we also work, really one of the great features is for a lot of the private data providers or some of the states who have their data network private that were funded by state funding, we act as a marketplace for them. So we actually sell their data as a broker, as an honest broker, to make sure that they get some revenue for their data that they're sharing to the public use. And so people who get that data access can actually earn some revenues out of it. A quick one. We have about 144 million daily observations coming into the system. We have been expanding rapidly. Over 140,000 stations are real-time operating in Synoptic platform. About 120K are local from the US. We have partnered with over 320 data providers, and some of them are actually sitting in this room. And we have about 147 parameters, so like temperature, visibility, soil moisture, precipitation. When you look at all these parameters, we have 147 plus parameters available. And our API today, as of today, gets about 3 million daily hits. Quick timeline of Synoptic. As I told you, we were born at University of Utah, became the MOISST program, continue to grow and start aggregating data networks. Started in the Western states first, became known as a MOISST. In 2008, we became part of the National Mesonet Program, and then have continued to climb. In 2012, we registered as Synoptic. Utah licensed out as a commercial entity. But in 2012, we became a PBC because we felt like this was not a for-profit, just money-making type organization. We wanted to do something good. And so that's how the PBC happened. About 2 years ago, we also became Esri partner. So a lot of these data now is also available on ArcGIS through Esri in the marketplace. So you can easily get license and display that data in your planning purposes. Last year, we also signed a letter of agreement with World Meteorological Observations because we wanted to make sure that what we are doing for National Mesonet, there's a burning desire to do something like this for the global Mesonet, right? We need a platform where everybody can put their data and then everybody can access that data. So right now we're working with WMO, we're working with NOAA and developing a global cache so that as more and more countries start putting their open data, they'll come into Synoptic platform and will be available. And our bigger milestone is we just certified as a B Corp. So now we have a mandate to do some KPIs and make sure that we're doing some good for the social and environmental causes. This is just an example of, this is the Federal Official Observing Networks. This is the ASOS-AWOS network from National Weather Service. And these are all additional stations. This includes all the state Mesonets, USGS, many of the NRCS and the stations we saw earlier. All these networks are combined, made of 320 different providers. And we are adding more and more providers every time because a lot of companies or states or universities don't have the IT budget to do anything. So they'll work with us. We partner with them and we'll host their data and make that available through API. So through the Synoptic data API right now, it's, you can go to MOISST and get the ASO save. So you can have an open data, sign up for our open license and get over 140,000 stations real time through an API. It's actually very flexible and really great product. Because we are at Drought conference, we have to always know what the recent events are, right? If you look at recently, Maui was a classic example where drought and wind and heat caused huge wildfires. The historic town of Lanai is gone. Bone dry on the range, Texas, Afghanistan, worldwide drought and flood is really a common disaster. Many people know that drought is really the third costliest disaster type in the US, only behind tropical cyclones and severe thunderstorms. So if you do CPI adjusted, there's about $340 billion in damages since 1980 that have been caused by drought. So I really appreciate all the work we are doing here and learning and adding more and more networks and expanding. So where Synoptic comes in. So if we all combine our efforts and start putting this data, now the great thing is a lot of you have stations, they can come on Synoptic. Synoptic also has a lot of public and private stations that can be available for your own research. So you don't always have to add new stations, and you can also do some gap filling using existing stations available on our platform. We also have a really great value-added precipitation service because there are about 28 different types of precipitation people measure. There's daily rainfall, hourly rainfall, monthly rainfall, every 15 minutes. Some just only report when there's an event. And so our engine, we have done a value-added product where we can actually go back and give you a uniform output. If you went and said, what was the rainfall in Texas for the last 24 hours? We'll go and look at all the networks that are on our Texas state, which we have about 9,000 stations in Texas alone. And we'll give you the exact uniform output of what that precipitation interval was based on, because we know everybody's configuration, how often they're reporting and all that. So all that calculation is done. We also have a lot of soil moisture observation stations already. So we have about 3,500 stations. You can go right now and look at soil moisture data, and you will be able to see 3,500 stations available in the US that is actually reporting soil moisture. One of the great things we did was this year, in fact, just a couple of weeks ago at the ASC meeting in Davenport, Iowa, we released a visualization platform because until now, you had to be a computer science programmer and know how to do API calls to access data. But now we have just added a new link called viewer.synopticdata.com. And if you go there, you can easily see every single open network. We give all the credit to the data provider. So you can see who's providing which station and we have data for almost 20 years. So from the day we start collecting the data, we never delete that. So some stations have data from 1995, some stations we just added last month, and they probably have data from last month. But we're keeping that historical data records. But really the biggest value add for us is, and all of us heard earlier that maintenance is a huge issue on soil moisture stations, sensor problems, quality issues. These happen. These are practical problems that we cannot avoid it. Synoptic has about 80 different types of QA, QC flags we run into real time. So we can actually do spatial check, range check, historical check, a lot of different kind of checks, and actually show you which values have problems, and we flag those values, and some of them can easily, in fact, our viewer will show that if you go and look at some of the data, if the temperature is out of range, you'll see a dark black circle with a flag saying there was a quality flag for temperature. And so a lot of these work is done for you because that's where bulk of the time goes. Of course, you have to maintain the station, do your good calibrations. But then once the data comes back, there's a lot of work in calibrating the sensors, making sure the qualities are correct. So this is where Synoptic really does great. We do about 80 types of flags, QA, QC in real time. So this is a real value-add feature and people love it about this. The second thing is API is super flexible. You can do by geography, by network, by parameter, by any network, however you want it, slice and dice, and there's no limits. You can do up to 100,000 calls at the same time. So many concurrent calls. And of course, the biggest thing is we never delete data. So we can always be your online backup ever. If you lost something or something happened, if Synoptic was also getting your data points, you can always restore your database completely back. And here's the graph example from the same viewer. You can plot multiple stations or a single parameter or a single, single station, multiple parameters. You can customize your plots. You can even bookmark these pages. So every time you don't have to go and select. If you have a few sites that you want to see, you can just keep on. Once you create your chart, you can just click a bookmark, and every time you open, it'll just remember you and give you that data. So just a few examples. So I encourage all of you who have probably not heard of Synoptic, and we are really a huge primary subcontractor for the National Mesonet. We are collecting all the data for NOAA, sending data to MOISST. We also have now started sending some data directly to NCO. So we can really easily add your stations. The real value add is really QA/QC. We summarize all the data, do good QA/QC, deliver that, and also serve as your online backup of this data. So this is a great positive. And as I said, the data can be filtered by geography or anything. The other good thing is we are now also working with the Upper Missouri River Basin, and we're actually working on metadata ingest and delivery for all the UMRB stations. So that project has just kicked off, and we are working with the 5 states and making sure all their soil moisture and soil network data is inside the Synoptic and then delivered to NWS. That's it. That's all the question I had. I just wanted to introduce you to Synoptic data. If you've never heard of us, please visit our website. And the team is amazing. We have a really awesome support staff. 90% of our emails are answered within 4 to 8 hours. So really, it's pretty solid. So.
Well, thanks, Ashish. Looking at the viewer right now, I like it. It's interactive. Is there a data export function where once I have all my stations and variables of interest, everything, I can spit out a nice feature class or something like that?
Yeah, so thank you for asking that question. This is a product we just launched like 2 weeks ago. It's still in a beta state. I'm only releasing to a few customers. We thought this was a great place to show it. We're now going to add a data downloader, so you will be able to download data directly. We're also adding dashboards, and eventually our goal is to also add some alarms for our data providers. So when their stations stop responding or when temperatures go out of whack, or you will start getting emails and alerts. So all these things are in the product line, should come. I think the data downloading, right now they're working on a summary page where you can go and get a summer weather summary page of all your data. And the next step is visualization and downloads. And then metadata explorer, we're going to have a lot of metadata related work. So it's an ongoing product that we're going to continue to develop. And this product is free for anybody to use. The visualization is not something you pay for or anything like that. So
How will you visualize, network health and status?
pardon?
I'm sorry. How will you visualize network health and status, do you think?
Yeah, so we already have a network data availability tool, which right now we can see how many if you have a network with us, we can tell you exactly how many stations reporting and what the percentile is. All this thing is available through our API. So not only can you use it on our visualization tool, but you can also make an API call and create your own little visualization pages too. But it'll be all available through a dashboard on the network statistics and everything. So some of the things we may only give it to the provider. So you may get a login to log in as an open access, and then you can see your particular network statistics. But all this is on our in the works right now.
Thank you.
And I would just mention too, Ashish, I know that we got our data to MOISST through your system. And I think one of the keys is that they didn't have any metadata for soil moisture. So I think with the discussion at lunch will be very important for you to be involved.
So who do we talk to get our sensing stations on the network?
I'll give you my card, but we have for our federal sales, we have Bill Callahan, Elizabeth Wilson, and then just if you send sales at Synoptic or support info at Synoptic, immediately you'll get a response and people will start working with.
Okay.
But I'll give you my business card also afterwards. So we want to really encourage everybody to come on the platform, and the more data comes in, everybody benefits.
Thank you. We just heard from NOAA people, from USDA people presenting their networks. does your product integrate all of these public platforms?
Most of the problem platforms are here, the USGS, NOAA, most of the state mesonets are here, even most of the NRCS sites, Snowtel, a lot of them are already on the platform. Not everyone, some of you may have net, like, I don't know if California GS, the presentation we saw earlier is on there or not, but we would have to check. It all depends on who's putting, and we are not saying no to anyone.
Hi, thanks for your talk. I was wondering, how transparent is your QA/QC system, and is it available that you can get the raw data and the QA/QC system, and can you see what's done between the two?
Yeah, so the QA/QC system really follows MOISST. So we have all the MOISST QA/QC checks applied. We have already some Synoptic checks and then some from the MOISST days. They are all applied. There's a very elaborate documentation on the developers.synoptic. If you go to our synopticdata.com, on the developers page, it's fully transparent. You can see every single flag, and we always preserve the raw data. So raw data is never deleted, except the edited value gets a flag. So, but we never delete or touch the raw data because that's the data integrity. Where I think Synoptic data is provisional is we don't go back and correct data. So if you go to NCEI, or you may get historical records that are corrected, because we have always focused on real time, or archival data will always have whatever was in the database real time. There is a project we have in our queue to do all the climate and historical data records, but we haven't had the time to do that yet. So.
Great. Well, thank you, Ashish. And